Welcome to the Services Australia podcast, where we talk about our payments and services and share practical information to help you get the right support at the right time. In this episode, we're going to talk about balancing family payments, a process that happens at the end of each financial year for people who get family tax benefit or Child Care Subsidy. I'm joined by agency spokesperson Chelsea Kiviklis. Chelsea, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me again.
So let's start at the beginning. What is balancing and why does it matter?
Well, balancing is a process that we undertake every year. So if you're familiar with the process, you'll know that family tax benefit is balanced in July and childcare subsidy is from mid-August. What balancing actually is where we compare the income that you provided to us as an estimate to the amount that you actually earned. And that's usually through your tax return. And we want to make sure that we've paid you the right amount. So for most families, there is no change. But for some families, when it comes to balancing, it might mean that you get a little bit of a cash boost. And for a small number of families, it may mean that you have a debt.
So what do most families need to do so that we can balance their payments?
In order for us to balance payments, most families will simply need to lodge a tax return with the ATO. Then once the ATO has finished with that, they'll let us know what your confirmed income was for that financial year, and then we'll balance your payments. So as we were talking about before, for some families there is no change. For some families might get a top up, and other families they might get a debt. But what I will say for families, my hot tip for you is please wait until late July. It will allow us to pre-fill your information with the ATO. So if you're waiting till late July to lodge your tax return, it means that we send all of the information to the ATO and it avoids any mistakes in your tax return. I know we had around 142,000 people last year that had lodged their tax return early and unfortunately had to go back and re-lodge due to some information that was missing. So while it might feel like you're saving a bit of time by getting in nice and early, it could cause you to do some rework.
No one wants to have to do their tax twice, do they?
No, right.
Now, what about families who don't need to lodge a tax return? What happens there?
Well, if you don't need to lodge a tax return, then you still need to let us know, and that's in your Centrelink online account through MyGov. You just complete the Advise Non-Lodgment, and that generally pops up after July. If you're unsure if you need to lodge a tax return, then you can head to our website and search tax time. There's heaps of information on there about the payments, if they're taxable or non-taxable, and then what you need to do.
Well, that's a great tip. So if any confusion, just check the website.
Check the website. There's heaps of information available on there, and likely most of your questions will be answered.
The question that families will have is, how long does this balancing take?
Well, we start balancing family tax benefit in early July and then childcare subsidy in mid-August. Now, it takes around 28 days from when you lodge your tax return for the ATO to have that information back to us, and then it takes a few weeks from there. Now, if you're wondering where your balancing is up to, the easiest way to keep up to date with it is through your Centrelink online account through MyGov. We'll provide updates with where your balancing activity is up to in there. There's no need to give us a call.
So we've touched on the different outcomes from balancing. Can we go through those again? What can families expect?
Well, when we've balanced your payment, there are three possible outcomes. One is that, your income estimate was accurate, there's no change. The other families might receive a top-up, so you might have overestimated your income, so we might owe you some money back. And for a small percentage of families, it may mean that you have incurred a debt, so you might have underestimated your income. Now, we will send you a letter advising the outcome of your balancing and let you know what the next steps are.
So I guess that's a good thing to recognise. Sometimes we do make mistakes and you might be looking through things and realise I've made a mistake and I'm going to end up with a debt. So what can we do for people in that situation?
The first thing I'd say is don't panic. We understand that things change throughout the year. I know I often remind families, don't wait until 1 July to just update your income estimate. You can do that on a regular basis on your Centrelink online account through MyGov. Maybe you were casual and you picked up an extra shift, or you worked a public holiday and there was a bit of overtime. You might be part-time and increased your hours, or of course you might have received a lump sum payment from your employer. all of those have an impact to your income estimate. Once the balancing is finalised, we will send you a letter with your options to be able to repay, and we want to be able to work with you to repay that in a way that works best for you. There is a tab in your Centrelink online account called Money You Owe, so you can work out a repayment plan in there, or you can call our Centrelink debt recovery team.
What about families who might be expecting a top-up payment but they haven't received that because they have a debt? What's the situation there?
Well, if you do have a debt with us, we might retain the money, or you potentially have a debt with the ATO, we might actually retain that top-up or the supplement payment in order to be able to repay that. And we do that as part of balancing family assistance payments. We call this offsetting, and depending on how much you owe, we might retain the full amount of those supplementary payments.
End of financial year is gone now, but there's always next year, as always is with these things. So what are there any tips for people now heading towards the next financial year about what you can do to prepare for this process so that we're as accurate as we can be when we get to the end?
Yeah, I've got 2 tips for families. The first one is updating your income estimate. Now, you can do that regularly throughout the year. I know some families leave it as a set and forget activity, but I would say it's a really good idea to jump in on a regular basis. You'll hear me talk about this often where I say spend 5 minutes, have a look, make sure that income estimate hasn't changed, especially if you're casual or part-time, or if you're on a gradual return back to work after having a baby. It's really simple and easy to do, and it really does help you to avoid an overpayment or incur a debt next year. The next thing that I would say is Child Care Subsidy. We actually withhold 5% of that payment just to try and help families to avoid an overpayment. Now, that is in control of you and your family, so you can increase that amount. If you are nervous that you might get an overpayment, it's really easy to jump into your Centrelink online account through MyGov, increase that percentage up. I know I've heard some families refer to it as a forced saving plan, and they get their payment in the new financial year. So you can increase that if that's something that you wish to do.
And I guess they're the decisions that we can think about now as we prepare as the year goes on.
Absolutely, and they're the little steps that you can take to make sure that come this time next year, you're not worried about an overpayment and you're not worried about having to work out how you repay that debt.
And I like your suggestion about housekeeping. We always talk about that here in the podcast studio as well. It's always a good idea to pop into your MyGov account and just do a little check every now and then, isn't it?
That's right. And sometimes it's only 5 minutes. I know updating your income estimate could probably be the last on your life admin list, but it can save you thousands of dollars if you just get that updated on a regular basis.
Thanks so much, Chelsea. Great to have you in, and thanks for all your great tips. And that's all for this episode. For now, the key thing to remember is you need to confirm your income so we can balance your payments. So do this by either lodging a tax return or telling us that you don't need to. And if you have a partner, they'll need to do this too. If you're unsure about what to do or just want a refresher, visit our website, servicesaustralia.gov.au/balancing. Our Services Australia Facebook and Instagram pages will also be sharing information about balancing to help guide you through. As always, thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.